Good day everyone, this is me, Teacher Al, and for today we're going to discuss about writing sentence patterns. So, what is sentence pattern? Sentence pattern refers to simply the arrangement of the elements of the sentence. So, sentence has two basic elements, which is the subject and the predicate, and the patterns is being arranged from the most basic to the most complex. So, on this discussion, at the end of the discussion, I have here my objectives. The students will be able to recognize the 5 basic sentence patterns. The students will be able to construct their own sentence following the patterns. The children will be able to determine the rule of each element in a sentence. So I have here my terms being used in this discussion. Sentence, a group of words that usually contain a subject and a verb and expresses a complete idea. Subject is a noun phrases or pronoun that usually comes before the main verb. Verb, a word or group of words that describes an action or state. Transitive verb has an object. Intransitive verb does not have an object. So this verb has two types, which is the transitive verb and the intransitive verb. And there are also two types of object, which is the direct and the indirect. So direct refers to the person or thing affected by the object. Direct object answers the question whom and what, while the indirect refers to the person who benefits from the action of the verb. So usually this answers for whom, for what, and to whom. Complement tells us something about the nature of the subject or the object. So that's the terms. So we have here the 5 basic sentence pattern. First is the subject plus linking verb plus complement. Second is a subject plus intransitive verb. Third, subject plus transitive verb plus direct object. Fourth, subject plus transitive verb plus indirect object plus direct object. And fifth, subject plus transitive verb plus direct object plus object complement. So to start, this is the first sentence pattern. Subject plus linking verb plus complement. This includes a subject, a linking verb, and a complement. Linking verbs are the types of verbs that join the subject with an adjective or another noun. Some commonly used links before verbs include be, am, are, is, were, and seem. Apart from linking verbs, we can also use sense verbs to make this type of sentence pattern. A sense verb is a verb that describes one of the 5 senses: the sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste. On the other hand, a subjective complement is a word or group of words that often follow a linking or sense verb. Subjective complements can either be nouns, pronouns, or adjective. So we have here an example. Example number 1 is, he looks so happy. So obviously the subject is he, and linking verb is looks, and the complement is happy. And for the second example, we have here orange and yellow are bright colors. So the subject is orange and yellow. The linking verb is are, because we have 2 subjects, and complement is bright colors because orange and yellow is obviously a color. So we have here the second sentence pattern, which is the subject plus intransitive verb. It includes just a subject and an intransitive verb. Intransitive verbs do not need a direct object, so we can call it independent. Unlike transitive verbs, verbs belonging to this type don't answer the question what. In most cases, dynamic and locomotive verbs, or verbs that expresses movement, belong to the sentence pattern. Also, this pattern uses verbs that are in the base form and doesn't need supporting information. This means that the thought of the sentence was already completed by the action of the verb. So, this is the intransitive verb, which does not need an object. So, for example, she swims, the book fell, Peter marches, Peter sneezes, evil exists. So we have two words, but it already expresses the complete idea, right? So that is the sentence pattern 2, which is the subject and the intransitive verb. Let's move on to the third one. Subject plus transitive verb plus direct object. This pattern includes a subject, transitive verb, and a direct object. We use transitive verb, which means that we need a direct object. The trick here is to make sure our verb answers the question, what? Moreover, this pattern uses a verb that is in the S form. Most specifically, the stative verbs, the STV-DO pattern, unlike the SIV pattern, need supporting information, especially the object pointed about the sentence. Now, so this is the dependent, unlike to the second one, which is independent. So this one needs a direct object. So the sentence without the direct object can't be complete. Will have no complete idea. So for example number 1 is they are baking cookies and cakes. So the subject is the they, and the transitive verb is are baking, and the direct object is cookies and cakes. For the second example, we have here the butter hit the ball. So the subject is the batter because that is what we're talking about. And then the transitive verb is hit, and the direct object is the ball. Fourth, subject plus transitive verb plus indirect object plus direct object. So we have here the 4 elements. So this type includes a subject, a transitive verb, and the indirect object and a direct object. For example of this is the STVIODO. Example 1 is Mary lent Josh money. So the subject is Mary, the transitive verb is lent, the indirect object is Josh, and the direct object is money. So what is the indirect object? So for me, they told us that the indirect object can also be a person. So we have here for the second example, Anna taught her the answer. So the subject is Anna, the transitive verb is thought, the indirect is her, the direct object is the answer. So direct object answer the question what and who, while the indirect answers for, as what I've said earlier, that indirect object answers the question to whom, to what, for what, and for whom. So this simply refers to the one that benefits the action. So in some instances, there are instances that the direct object comes before the indirect object. So instead of STV, IO, and DO, the pattern then becomes STV, DO, IO. For example is grandma gave him the money. So this is the original pattern, which is the subject, transitive verb, the indirect object, and the direct object. But then there are instances that the direct object comes first before the indirect object. So we have here the example, grandma gave the money to him. So the pattern is subject, transitive verb, direct object, and the indirect object. So the underlined word is in the first sentence is the indirect object, while in the second sentence we have here the underlined words are the to him. So this is now the indirect object. So as you can see, the indirect object in the sentence 2 is at the can be found in the last part of the sentence. So some grammarians insist that it is acceptable in English. So we have here the fifth and the last sentence pattern. Subject plus transitive verb plus direct object plus object complement. This sentence pattern includes the object, transitive verb, direct object, and an object complement. The object complement in this sentence pattern refers to a specific description of the direct object being done by the subject. With the use of the verb, generally the OC or the object complement in this pattern could be a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. So we are already familiar with the adjective or the adverb. For the example of this, we have here, example number 1, she called the boy attractive. So the subject is she, the transitive verb is called, the direct object is the boy, and the object complement is attractive. So as you can see, the boy is being described as attractive. They painted the house blue. Subject is they, the transitive verb is painted, and the direct object, the house, and the object complement is blue. The house is blue. So that will be all for today. I hope you've learned something from the discussion of the writing sentence patterns. So thank you very much and stay safe and God bless.